YouTubers! Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. I got a really, really good article from the Financial Times from Alphaville. It was published 3 hours ago. 4 hours ago. I'm lying. I thought it was 3. Anyways, I want to read this to you guys. It's really important. And this is a Mike Martin's regurgitation article. This is regurgitating everything I've been saying for the longest time. Oh, God bless America. Anyways, let's look at this, guys. What happened when Vancouver residents built new homes in their backyards? From Sydney to New York to London, it's uncommon to find renters praying for the collapse in house prices, but when a significant number of homeowners want the same thing, something strange is going on. So remember that a couple of articles I read, how homeowners want the price of housing to go down because their kids and grandkids and great-grandkids can never afford to buy? Yeah, you're rich on paper, but at what cost? This was the situation in Vancouver in 2016. The city, buoyed by money flowing in from China, had become the lending global exemplar of the metropolitan housing crisis. In the same year, a tax on foreign buyers was introduced. Remember that, guys? I read articles on this on that same day when the tax was introduced, and they were thinking about the tax, and it was in law, and they were thinking of passing. Remember, guys? Well, since then, the health of the market has weakened severely, as in major other global cities, but the prices are still striking. In the Greater Toronto alone, the average residential prices are over $1 million in Canadian dollars. That's $756,000 US dollars, up from a close to $500,000 in 2009. These types of issues usually feed into the debate of supply of housing. Remember? Supply and demand. It's always the problem. Yes, you need to feed the supply. There's too much demand. Let's feed the supply. But, let's see. These types of issues usually feed the debate on supply of housing, which is then often put forward as a solution to affordability crisis. A new study of Vancouver's real estate market sheds light on some of the complications in that debate. Academics at the University of British Columbia of Simon Fraser University have examined the impact of Laneway homes on nearby property values in Vancouver. Laneway homes are properties built in pre-existing lots, often converting garages were first permitted for single-family owners in Vancouver in 2009. The city extensive zoning restrictions, which often limit the use of land to residential housing for single families. These are blamed for reducing supply of housing and reducing residential density. The defense is that they help preserve neighborhood amenities. The regulatory change aimed to increase the supply with minimal disruption to existing neighborhoods. Laneway homes are a part of the same property. So, guys, California is doing this with people living in garages and people sleeping in cars. But California's been renting their driveway space out in California so people could park their car on someone's driveway and sleep in the car. Yeah, I think I got that one right. Laneway homes are a part of some of the property and therefore let out to tenants for family members rather than sold independently. Around 3,000 of them were built in Vancouver from 2009 and 2017. So there was a lot of homes with the garages weren't garages, they were just homes. I saw that there in the laneways there. So what did this mean for existing houses? What does this mean for existing garages? Where are people going to park their cars? More cars on the streets, and it looks like, oh, look at this, booming cities. There's cars everywhere. No, it's everyone's garages have been converted into homes. So what does it mean for existing houses? The paper found that there were, on average, no significant spillovers on the values of nearby properties. The presence of laneway within 100 meters of a house was associated with a 0.5% lower transaction price. However, it found that expensive properties were more significantly impacted, and that the percentage impact was larger. The higher the value of the properties from the paper. Uniformly across the specification and tests, the negative spillover effect increases in absolute magnitude with property price and even in small sample sizes. The estimated negative spillover is statistically different from zero from the highest value properties. This intuitive result, if you build a modern housing estate on an empty, well-located field, the value of the field will rise. If you build on a modern housing estate on a land of an 18th century chateau, the value of the chateau would probably fall. So it's like people filling in their swimming pools in California. A lot of people didn't want swimming pools in their houses, so they start filling them in and then cementing them over. Why? Because the property value is worth less with a pool in some instances or situations, because people don't want to keep up with the maintenance costs and the cost of maintaining a swimming pool. Now, that's what's happening with these Laneway homes. Hey, let's build an extra little house in the backyard. So they take up all the backyard space, so you got no more backyard, but you have a house in the backyard. Like, hey, let's look at our back house. Is that a good way to put it? The study, therefore, provides clear evidence that different preferences on the part of different kinds of owners of housing. In wealthy areas such as West Vancouver, prices react more strongly against introduction of new supply or indeed to any disruption or change in the living area. On a deeper level, the analysis also hits at how far removed the dynamics affecting rental supply might be from the dynamics affecting the purchases of new family homes. Laneway homes, which usually have 1 or 2 bedrooms, increase the supply of rental housing, but not the supply of family homes. The Vancouver example is analogous on the practice of London converting an entire floor for a family home, often the basement, into a flat. This is the one method of gradually extracting cash from dramatic price increases in your asset, as opposed to remortgaging, which immediately extracts cash, leaves you more indebted. It appeals to owners who are asset rich, but unspeculator incomes and are willing to substitute space for cash. This is often missed in discussion of the supply. Remember, guys? We talked about this. Of housing in major cities. In fact, supply of rental units can dramatically shift beneath the surface via amendments and existing buildings. Laneways in Vancouver are particularly the example of this. The paper finds that the beneficial welfare effect on renters through increased supply. This logically follows because people are converting part of their existing properties to provide a service in a highly competitive rental market. It is, however, incredibly hard to obtain accurate data on rents in the city because the extent of the bilateral arrangements. In this respect, the prices of 1 or 2 bedroom flats elsewhere might be more sensitive than the prices of neighboring family homes. The paper did not test this. 3,300 Laneway units make up 2% of the rental supply in the city of Vancouver. So here's the deal. Do you guys remember in London? I read that article about 2 years ago when the Mayor Khan was saying, let's tear up our green space. Let's tear it all up in backyards and laneways. Let's build. Let's get housing for all these people that can't afford to live. Come on, people, pitch in. Well, it's tearing up the green space. The landscape doesn't look attractive anymore. And like they said in this article, the price of housing might be affected with it. Young tenants are likely to either buy a small flat or rent a small flat or rent a room in a converted larger house. In all cases, they expect to remain there for a relatively short period of time, but it is unclear why they would be more able to buy a family home in a global city. Irrespective of whether they buy or rent the intermediate flat, home in London depends on the price of the former rising dramatically relative to the price of the latter. Otherwise, it is just an undiversified method of saving for a house. Their main interaction with actual houses is that family homes are carved up into shared rental accommodations, or they live with parents in wealthier areas. The market is less likely to naturally increase rental supply because the owners can afford to express preferences for space. After a certain level of income, no amount of additional marginal income for a tenant is going to swing the cost of having a 28-year-old swanning around your property. The level of income may be quite low. The overall problem of affordability in major cities means that an array of different things, as the Laneway example shows, new supply in cities comes in a particular form, which is usually small accommodation designed for renting, or short-term ownership in the intermediary life stage before having children. So ding, 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 that's the problem. People are holding back on having kids. What do? Bring more people in! We can fill that void! And Canada loses its identity and its sovereignty and what it means to be Canadian. In the 80s, this country was good. You should have seen how good this country... You could bag groceries in the supermarket and buy your house in 5 years. Pay it off. Hand to God, I'm not lying. Higher supply of these assets might make the experience of the 20s and early 30s city life more pleasant by reducing rent or increasing space, but it is hard to see any of its boosting the supply of family houses, which is the fundamental transitional problem for the afflicted generation. As for those who already have them, they might just stay within the family. So people are, and what they're trying to say in this article too is that a lot of people aren't leaving the parents. Because I remember when I was 20, everyone was making... 19. Everyone was making fun of me. He still lives with his parents. It's like, are you serious? Mike, how old are you? I'm 19. You still live with your parents, Mike? What the heck, man? Move out. What are you doing? That was back in the days, guys. That was like 21 years ago when things were normal. All you had to do was get a part-time job and you could afford rent and groceries. But things got to a point where people just can't live anymore. So... Laneway homes, backyards being used to build homes, to build laneway homes or these unsafe things. They did it in California, and then a lot of them are being dismantled, or a lot of them are being shut down or fined. And then people now, the new thing is they're renting out their driveway space for people to park and sleep in their car. Oh, maybe you might get an extension cord to the car if you're nice. We might send you out an extension cord for power if you're nice. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Well, I'd like to know what is happening. Affordability. Houses are starting to come down. Everything's crumble. Things are fracturing in Sydney. Things are fracturing in Auckland. Things are fracturing in Christchurch. Things are fracturing in London. Things are fracturing in Dublin. But housing prices are on fire in Belfast because everyone's moving north now. And it's become attractive to foreign investors there. What is happening? Canada's in a complete free fall. We'll see what happens in the markets. The markets are shooting up today. I sold all my oil today as oil went up to $52 or $53 a barrel. I got out of the market today. I sold all my oil, and we'll see what happens with things going forward. I just want to be on the safe side, and I'm not hedging with anything right now. So, guys, let's see what happens. Comment below. Let me know.